Let me share my screen and let's get started. I'm Brandon Beck. I'm 17 years old and a senior in high school. I'm a youth ambassador and a youth ambassador conference and events coordinator for Narcolepsy Network. I also serve on the Youth Ambassador Advisory Leadership Team. Narcolepsy Network is a national, not-for-profit organization that is dedicated to assisting people with narcolepsy and their families. I was diagnosed with narcolepsy when I was 12, but have been coping with a multitude of symptoms and other health issues my entire life. Before I was properly diagnosed, I struggled to stay alert on the baseball field or at school. Little did I know that my vivid daydreams were actually microsleep episodes. And I had no idea that it was not normal to constantly fight debilitating exhaustion and pain. Thanks to improvements in diagnostics and new medications, I'm happy to say that it is possible to manage my symptoms and survive and thrive with a chronic sleep disorder. The key is to recognize the symptoms and seek appropriate diagnosis and care from medical specialists, and never give up hope. Today I'm going to provide an overview of narcolepsy, the spectrum of symptoms, the challenges, how it's diagnosed, and where to obtain support. We all need sleep to be healthy. Sleep is just as important to the body as oxygen, nutrients, and water. Teens need 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night, whereas adults only need 7 to 9 hours. Many important processes take place during sleep, including the consolidation of memory, cell growth, and restoration. These processes are vital to our health. Scientists divide sleep into two parts: active sleep, or REM sleep, and non-active or non-REM sleep. Both are necessary since they serve different brain functions. For most people, sleep begins with stage 1 of non-REM sleep, where the brain is right on the edge of sleep and waking. Stage 2 is light sleep, when a person can generally be woken fairly easily, and stage 3 is deep restorative sleep. Stage 3 sleep is particularly important since this is the stage where the body repairs cell damage and regains energy. After approximately 90 minutes of non-REM sleep, the brain typically moves into REM, or rapid eye movement sleep. During this stage, the brain is very active, dreams occur, and the information learned during the day is processed. From the graph, you can see that most people cycle in and out of REM about 6 times a night. 75% of sleep is spent in non-REM stages, while 25% is spent in REM sleep. As we grow, our sleep needs change. Teenagers, for example, have different sleep requirements than adults or babies. Teens actually require more sleep than adults, and their body clock is naturally set to wake up later and go to sleep later than adults. Unfortunately, school start times often interfere with this, so some school systems have started to move the start times later for high schoolers. Other factors that can disrupt sleep include blue light from electronics, such as computers and smartphones, stress, and a lot of activity right before bedtime. Now, think of a time when you were really, really tired. The kind of tired where you feel like you can't keep your eyes open. Imagine how this can affect you. Disruptions in the normal sleep cycle can result in sleep deprivation. Research has shown that a good night's sleep cannot make up for sleep lost the night before. Sleep is a public health concern because between 50 and 70 million Americans suffer from sleep and wakefulness disorders. Insufficient sleep is associated with diseases such as diabetes, cardiovascular problems, obesity, and depression. Lack of sleep can also cause you to feel scatterbrained, forgetful, disorganized, and irritable. It can make it hard to think quickly and decreases your ability to attend and concentrate. Some people who lack sleep describe it as brain fog, surrounding their thoughts and making it difficult to focus. Do I get brain fog? Absolutely. Therefore, I try to strategically plan my life around my sleep schedule. People without sleep disorders are able to stay awake throughout the day and remain engaged when they want or need to be. For people with sleep disorders, it's not always that simple. How many of you have heard of sleep apnea? Sleep apnea is a sleep disorder in which a person wakes up or partially wakes up multiple times a night because of pauses or disruptions in his or her breathing. How many of you had a night where you could not fall asleep when you went to bed, or if you woke up in the middle of the night, you could not fall back to sleep? People with the sleep disorder insomnia have this problem every night. A third common sleep disorder is called restless leg syndrome. This is when a person does not get enough sleep because of a strange, unpleasant feeling in his or her legs and a strong urge to move when trying to sleep. This brings us to the sleep disorder I would like to tell you more about today: narcolepsy. Narcolepsy is a rare chronic neurological sleep disorder. This means, for people with narcolepsy, it is a lifelong disorder. Narcolepsy develops due to changes in the brain's ability to regulate sleeping and waking. It affects about 1 in every 2,000 people in the United States. That's 200,000 Americans and approximately 3 million worldwide. It is considered a rare disease, but it is estimated that only 25% of people who have narcolepsy have been diagnosed and are receiving treatment. The brains of people with narcolepsy no longer produce the chemical that normally regulates the sleep-wake cycle. As a result, people with narcolepsy experience uncontrollable sleepiness during the day, but also struggle with fragmented, restless sleep at night. Although scientists believe that it is triggered by an autoimmune reaction, narcolepsy is not contagious. Autoimmune reactions cause the immune system to attack the body's own cells. In narcolepsy, this reaction destroys the brain cells that produce hypocretin, the chemical in the brain that normally controls the sleep-wake cycle. Autoimmune reactions are triggered by something in the environment, such as the flu virus or strep throat, stress, or even a head injury. The trigger that causes someone to develop narcolepsy is not the same for everyone. Almost everyone with narcolepsy also shares a genetic marker. This genetic marker is common in 1/4 of the population. However, most of them will never develop narcolepsy. Scientists are still working to better understand the risk factors and environmental triggers that can lead to the development of narcolepsy. Without hypocretin, the brain cannot control the sleep-wake cycle. If you look at this slide, the graph on the right shows the normal sleep-wake cycle we already discussed. Now, the graph on the left shows what a daily sleep-wake cycle looks like for someone with untreated narcolepsy. You can see their sleep is disorganized, and the normal boundaries between the sleep-wake states are lost. People with narcolepsy enter REM sleep, or active dreaming sleep, very quickly, within just minutes of falling asleep, as opposed to the 90 minutes it typically takes a person without a sleep disorder. As a result, the person with narcolepsy spends less time in deep restorative sleep, the time when the body repairs and rejuvenates itself. Because nighttime sleep is less restful, people with narcolepsy may have multiple sleep episodes requiring naps during the day as well as sleeping at night. As a result of having an abnormal sleep-wake cycle, how awake I feel depends on the quality of my sleep and not the quantity. I like to use the analogy of a bear hibernating, where a person with narcolepsy can sleep for months, but still feel the need to stay in the cave. Symptoms usually develop during the teenage years, but can begin at any age. Even young children and other adults can develop narcolepsy. There are 5 main symptoms associated with narcolepsy. Each person's experience with the condition is unique. The number of symptoms and their severity will vary between people and within individuals. EDS, or excessive daytime sleepiness, is the uncontrollable urge to fall asleep. This feeling can last all day. Imagine staying awake for 72 hours straight. How many of you would feel exhausted, sick, and foggy-headed? Excessive daytime sleepiness is like that can't keep my eyes open, must sleep feeling. A person with EDS can feel like this every day and may not be able to control or predict when they will have to give in to the need to sleep. Excessive daytime sleepiness does not always result in the going to sleep as we think of it. Sometimes, part of the brain goes to sleep and the person still looks awake. The person may look like they're daydreaming or that nothing is wrong and they are working away as usual. In reality, their actions have become automatic behaviors that they are performing without any conscious input from the brain. The work that is being done may be incorrect or not make any sense, and the person will have no memory of what they did during this brief period of microsleep. Microsleep episodes are related to automatic behavior, and both are a common experience for people living with EDS. Automatic behavior may take place during microsleep, but not always. This slide illustrates the impact of microsleep and automatic behavior in a high school student with narcolepsy trying to work on a class assignment. You can see where she was working, but was really in a microsleep, and the writing motion was an automatic behavior. The writing does not make sense, and at one point it turns to scribbles. This can happen in any subject and at any time. Cataplexy is the sudden, temporary loss of muscle tone triggered by strong emotions such as laughter or anger. Muscle tone holds our bodies upright and enables us to stand up, sit up, and move. Without it, we are like rag dolls. Cataplexy occurs in narcolepsy, type 1. I do not have cataplexy, so I have narcolepsy type 2, without cataplexy. Cataplexy can range from a minor attack, such as a feeling of weakness in the knees or a drooping of the facial muscles, to a severe attack where the person drops to the floor. It is important to note that this is not a seizure. Seizures and cataplexy are not related. During an attack, the person with cataplexy can still hear and is fully alert, even if they cannot speak. The length of the cataplexy episode can vary from seconds to a few minutes. Hypnagogic or hypnopompic hallucinations are visual, auditory, or sensory hallucinations that occur when the person is on the edge of falling asleep or waking up. For example, the person thinks that he is awake and hears his name being called, or sees someone walking towards him. When he wakes up, no one is calling his name, and no one is in his room. He is confused as he tries to figure out if this really happened. What has occurred is that REM sleep invaded or overlapped with light sleep, causing the dream to feel very real and tricking his brain into thinking he was awake. This symptom is no joke and can be quite scary. Sleep paralysis is the temporary inability to move or speak when falling asleep or waking up. How often and for how long the sleep paralysis occurs depends on the person in the specific episode. The people who experience sleep paralysis feel like a corpse or prisoner in their own body. It can be terrifying. On this slide, you can see that the person with narcolepsy wakes up a number of times in the night. This does not happen in a normal night's sleep. This disruptive sleep contributes to the excessive daytime sleepiness and other symptoms felt during the day. Symptoms of chronic sleep deprivation are part of life when you have narcolepsy. Remember earlier when I asked everyone to think of a time when they were really, really tired and how it made you feel? Imagine that feeling never going away. A person with narcolepsy can feel every day like they have not slept for 48 to 72 hours. As you learned, sleep deprivation affects many things, including concentration, memory, thinking, and mood. One person with narcolepsy recently described it as, "It feels like having the worst head cold ever and being expected to go through the school day as if nothing was wrong. After consulting a doctor regarding difficulties staying awake, the doctor will perform a routine medical examination and will most likely administer a sleepiness questionnaire. The doctor may then order a night and day sleep study to determine the cause of the excessive sleepiness. During these studies, the person's brain activity and sleep-awake cycle is monitored. A person with narcolepsy moves into REM sleep within 8 minutes during the daytime study. In rare cases, further testing may be requested. Diagnosing narcolepsy can be tricky. In general, many teens are tired, and some are sleep deprived, so the teen, parent, school, or medical personnel often dismiss its severity as normal. It is an invisible disorder. People may assume someone is faking it, not trying hard enough, being lazy, or just do not care. Not all people with narcolepsy experience cataplexy. It may be misdiagnosed as another condition, such as chronic sleep deprivation, depression, anxiety, ADHD, laziness, and seizures. It takes on average 10 years to diagnose. No cure exists. However, a few strategies can help improve the person's daily life. Different medications, though not perfect, can be used to help people sleep better at night and stay more awake and alert during the day. Medications help minimize the symptoms, and different medications will work for different people. Lifestyle changes are mandatory. During the day, a consistent schedule, including regular naps and exercise, is important. Dietary changes can help minimize the symptoms, and school and work accommodations are also important. Good sleep hygiene should be followed. This includes a regular sleep routine in a cool, dark, quiet room with no TVs, computers, or other screen use before bed. This can be a real challenge for students. Most of the time, it is impossible to tell from looking at someone whether or not they are affected by narcolepsy. Sometimes having a disorder that is invisible can be especially difficult because others will forget or not realize how much of a struggle it can be every day just to get through the day. It is important for teachers and peers to remember this. Another reason people do not understand or respect the struggle the person must endure daily is the fact that books, films, and media have not always correctly shown the symptoms of narcolepsy and the true impact they have. As we have learned in this presentation, it is not all in one's head, and the person with narcolepsy cannot control these symptoms. Now that you have this information, one of the best things you can do is to help educate others. Remind people that it does not just mean you can fall asleep at any time. It is much more complicated than that. Let them know narcolepsy is an invisible neurological disorder, and that just because a person with narcolepsy may appear fine in one instance, it does not mean he or she is not struggling. Educating others about narcolepsy may also help someone who is having sleep issues seek the appropriate help. Look at the person's school, work, and home situation, and make adjustments where needed so that the environment helps the person rather than increase the stress and symptoms the person feels. Collaboration between medical teams, school, work, and family is important. Creating a helpful support system around the person is key. Recognize that he or she might not laugh at jokes or show a lot of emotion in social groups or in sports because he or she is trying to stop cataplexy attacks. Narcolepsy never stops. It impacts all areas of one's life and impacts everyone differently. But with proper support and treatment, a person with narcolepsy can live a healthier and more productive life.
All right. Excellent subject. I loved your presentation, Brandon. Accommodate, educate, so important, right? I'm going to draw a winner for an Apple Watch. For those of you who are in the webinar, thank you for attending. Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask over the microphone? Just raise your hand and I can unmute you and allow you to talk.
I actually have one more slide. I'm sorry, Lloyd.
I'm so sorry.
Here we go.
I thought you were done. That's right. You did show. Okay. Okay. Go ahead and explain what that is.
You are not alone. Here are some upcoming programs and resources Narcolepsy Network has to offer. This Thursday and every Thursday, there is a support group for adults. On Friday, there is a Youth Ambassador Social Hour for youth ambassadors and prospective youth ambassadors ages 14 to 22. And this Saturday, if you have a child between the ages of 8 and 13, we encourage you to sign up for the Connect program. It's a support group for children who have been diagnosed with narcolepsy, and children have a chance to interact with each other, play games, and ask us anything. Us, meaning Cynthia Zorn, the director of the Youth Ambassador Program, a pediatric sleep specialist, and youth ambassadors like me. You can find more information and register for these programs at narcolepsynetwork.org. Oh, and I forgot about, yes, December 5th, Narcolepsy Network is doing a series of mini conferences on topics that were planned for the in-person conference, and the first one is on the 5th. I already said that.
Exciting. So great to see Narcolepsy Network and the work that goes into this type of an organization. Anybody who's been in sleep out there as long as I have, you know that, having support for sleep disorders is so important. And my message is, if you know anyone or if you're struggling with excessive daytime sleepiness or extreme fatigue, any of these things that Brandon spoke about, the cool thing about Valley Sleep Center is you can come straight to us for that medical exam and you get it all done in one-stop shop. So we even have pediatric sleep specialists. So you don't necessarily need to go to your pediatrician. You can come straight to Valley Sleep Center, okay? And if you want a virtual appointment, our pediatricians that are board certified in sleep are also seeing people over Zoom, just like we are right now. Even with the pandemic, we can see people across state lines. So don't be afraid. Now, if you think you have narcolepsy, obviously you need it in the lab sleep study. So you will have to have a study where you are. But what kind of questions do you guys have out there? Anybody, while I draw a name? Any questions?
Oh, yes, please. Ask me anything. I don't bite.
Yes. Anybody struggling out there with what they think might be narcolepsy? Haven't been diagnosed, have been diagnosed, just you need a tip? Okay, Brandon, I'll ask one. Okay. You mentioned that you're up until 3 a.m. Was that because you were struggling to sleep, or did you have home? Tell us a little bit about that and how you're recovering from that.
Well, for the longest time, I did not sleep well. I did not go to school. It prevented me for many years not to go to regular school, and I was given the easy way out. They told me not to worry and to graduate later, but that was not what I had in mind for myself. And I was able to get accommodations, but that wasn't enough. I had to transfer to a new school to take the advanced courses that I wanted to take. And I had some great teachers who were supportive, but the typical public or private schools are not always equipped to help people with atypical health issues and thrive. So I've had to come up with organizational strategies to help me get through the day. So I've color-coded folders. I have one shelf for everything. I have timers and I plan my schedule, and it just makes it easier for me to get through the day. The only reason why I went to sleep at 3 a.m. last night is because I had to force myself to complete certain homework, and I just had to get that thing done. So sometimes I have to make compromises with my schedule to get things done.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, I have a winner of the Apple Watch, and I actually think that he might have a question. Randall, you're the winner. And cool. Randall, you have a question for, congratulations. I'll email you on the side. Did you have a question for Brandon?
I do, and it's very specific. And I was diagnosed with narcolepsy about almost 3 years ago. I'm 58, and I struggled with something for a long time, and finally figured out, it's that, and maybe some depression or something else. But like yourself, I have to really keep myself organized, and that's just become the way I operate. But and so even though I have the diagnosis of narcolepsy, and that's helpful, I still figuring out how to navigate it is still a challenge, right? And one of the things I stumble on different things from time to time that help. And one of the things I stumbled on recently is I started a low carb diet, and I started paying attention to how much protein I'm getting. And so I have a protein shake, and I notice after I have a protein shake, I do a lot better. And I wonder, do you know anything about that? Is that just my imagination? You know?
No. For some, well, it's different for everybody, but diet can help. Because certain foods, or if you have a heavy meal, or if there's a lack of air conditioning, certain things can trigger your symptoms. I have no idea the certain triggers for me, but you might have a great idea, and then you could build your schedule around that diet or around air conditioning or whatever it may be. That was a great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's one. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Randall.
Oh, I was just gonna, summarize. Yeah, okay. Diet can be a big issue, is what you said.
I think diet,
and it's different for everybody.
It's true. Oh, yes. Even the healthiest person will admit that diet. I struggle from different autoimmune stuff, and I will tell you, diet is a huge part of my life and accommodations. And if I get it's all important. Okay, Christine says, my son has narcolepsy. He's 15. He really wants to drive, but I'm scared to let him. What are our thoughts?
Okay, so anybody that's sleep deprived could have issues with driving. So it's important that your symptoms are treated and you use common sense. So when you get on the road and you feel sleepy, you should not keep driving.
Yeah. And we would obviously, as medical professionals at Valley Sleep Center, advise anybody if they're excessively tired to not drive or operate heavy machinery, because then you're a risk to not only yourself, but the community. So yeah, driving is definitely something that should be taken very seriously when you're excessively tired, whether you have a sleep disorder or not. Don't drive tired. Has COVID-19 restrictions help you, Brandon, or hurt you with your daily education?
It has actually helped me because I've been able to get a lot of work done. But for my other students, my other peers, they cannot stay focused in class, and it is a real problem. And they would benefit from a public school environment. An in-person, an in-person school.
Having the stimulation of other students.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, makes sense. Kimberly says, our family is watching and we just want Brandon to know what a great job he did. They have a 15-year-old son with type 1 narcolepsy. Thank you, Kimberly, for sharing. You really did a great job. All right. Any other questions? Congratulations to our Randall, to our Apple Watch winner. My thought behind the Apple Watch was it would help track sort of your daily activities, your exercise, your sleep, things that we all need to be looking at, even if we're healthy. But I think it would really help someone who's dealing with narcolepsy. Brandon, what do you use? Do you have any sort of way to track your sleep and how well you slept? What do you use?
I don't use any electronics really. I just have alarm clocks and they get me up in the morning.
And you kind of go by how you feel during the day and
yes, I take every day by day. So I might feel like I can't get anything done that day, and that's okay. It's okay to be not okay.
Do you use caffeine? Do you like teas or coffee, or do you use anything like that?
I cannot do caffeine. But yeah, I really don't have an affinity to any diet or foods or anything like that.
Interesting. Or like dark chocolate, they say can be stimulating. Okay, just curious. I don't think sugar is good no matter what, so I hate to promote that. But well, golly, thank you everybody for taking the time. It's such a weird time out there. I appreciate you joining, Brandon. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you everyone to the Narcolepsy Network that joined tonight, and to our patients at Valley Sleep Center. If you need anything along your journey, valleysleepcenter.com, that box that pops up, Ask a Sleep Coach, comes directly to my email. Feel free to reach out anytime. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Sleep well, Brandon.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
You too.